Pterodactyl here. Today's video is going to be on this here John Deere GX 255. And what we're going to address is a problem with the deck. We're going to take the deck off. We're going to jerk our deck off. So the problem is, let me get something to kneel on. This is slipping. See? So when you get a load on this, you're not going to get a good cut because the belt is not digging into the pulleys. So we're going to replace the deck belt and we're going to replace the pulleys because the pulleys are all wore out. And that's what happens over time. When they get wore out, the pulley cannot grip again. See, I'm turning that by hand. Belt's tight, it's got plenty of tension on it. But over time, from sand and dirt and dust flying around, it's actually wore this down, and you'll see all that when I jerk the deck off and we take a close look at them pulleys. So that's what we need to do first. So let me get the deck lowered. We're going to release that, which is going to release the belt that goes from the clutch to the mower deck. Now this belt is pretty wore out too. The customer wants me to replace this belt and all the other belts. So let's, we got the deck down, so we got some pins here we got to pull out to release the deck, and they seem to be pretty stuck. There we go. Had to really give it a wiggle. We went on the other side. This one's giving me the flux. I may have to get a pry bar. We're going to pull this off. Take some tension off, and then maybe I can pull this other one off over here. I'm going to grab it with a pair of channel locks. I know it's kind of hard to see in there. These things get wore after a while. There we go. I got it released. Got this released. Now this doesn't have the type of deck where you can turn the wheels and roll it out. It's going to have to slide it out. Well, I probably should have bought this pulley too, and I didn't, because this one's wore out too. I didn't think about that, but I'll have to get that ordered. What had happened is there's another idler that went here, and that one had come off. That's initially why the customer brought it in. So luckily Stens makes a replacement for that. And here's the part number. But that double pulley needs to be replaced too. And that goes right here. I think I got the old pulley because there's the, let me find the old pulley. So this one, the bearing locked up in it, and when that happened, it actually loosened the hardware, loosened the bolt, and the pulley actually fell off. But you got to have this too because this goes underneath it. So here's the stems replacement one. Exact same pulley. We got to have that, and then this goes on top like that. And then we got to have a bolt. I got to get the bolt for it. But we'll install all that once we get the rest of it off. So let me go ahead and release this spring, because we're going to replace this belt. And we're also going to replace these bushings in this arm. Now some of these items I had to get from Deere, like these spindle pulleys. Those are dealer items, and they're not cheap. So I got them from our local Deere dealer. Like I said, we're going to pull one off and I'm going to show you what happens. Here's the part number for that spindle pulley. So our dealer charged us $42.06 for these as of 2025. That double pulley I know is going to be a lot more. But hey, John Deere's are expensive, and if you can't afford it, then you got no right owning one. So I don't know if you could see. It's hard to tell, but you could feel there was a definite lip in there. Now I know some of y'all are probably thinking, that ain't what's wrong with it. You're just replacing parts that don't need to be replaced. Let me tell you something. These pulleys they have a lot to do with having traction, and I'll tell you how I know. When I used to work at my brother Farrell's shop, we used to work on a lot of those big commercial walk-behind mowers. You know what I'm talking about? Those big 48, 50, 54-inch commercial walk-behinds, Skags, Bobcats, and a lot of them had belts that ran the drive. They ran off the wheels, and then you would squeeze levers. And when you'd squeeze the lever, it would release tension on the belt so you could steer it, and then when you'd let go of the lever, it would take off. Well, they would come in a lot of times, and they would need new belts. And I was putting new belts on them, and when I get done and go to test them, they wouldn't pull. They still weren't pulling. And my brother Farrell would come up to me and he goes, you got to replace that pulley. I go, what do you mean? The pulley looks fine. He goes, no. The grooves of the pulley are wore out. He goes, that's why it won't. It's still slipping, even though you got a new belt on there. So I would put the new pulleys on those shafts and put the belts on. And as soon as you let off them levers, that thing would take off. You could climb a telephone pole with it. So yeah, when these grooves wear out or get worn from that belt riding in there, it's going to lose. It's not going to grab like you want it to. And you're going to see that in the grass when you get into deep grass. I just put new blades on this mower and them blades are junk because this thing is still leaving a strip. Well, the problem could be your pulleys are wore out and the belt is slipping in there and you're not getting that good cut. So remember that. So I'm going to go ahead and replace all three of these. So I got the three pulleys installed and I noticed that two of them are painted and one of them is metal like the original. Now another thing I like to do on these decks that don't have a diagram for the belt routing, because you know sometimes when you take the belt off then you're like, oh crap, I can't remember how they routed that belt. So I like to take Mr. Paint Pen and draw a diagram on the deck. So here's that pulley, here's that pulley, here's that pulley, and then we're going to have that idler there, and then we're going to have this idler on this arm, and then here's our double pulley. So we're going like this, and we come around here like this, and we come around here, and then this goes around here, and then the belt comes back around the back side of that one. So that way when I go to route the pulley again, or route the belt, the new belt, there's no confusion as to how it goes. And then that's a permanent diagram on there. Sometimes I even like to, you know, make this so you know that this is the blades for like future reference. Now, I just got a hold of our John Deere dealer and told him that I need to order this pulley. Now I don't know if any of these pulleys are available on Fleabay or Scamazon, but this customer is kind of in a hurry, so we had to get them from the dealer. That's the fastest way to get them. And then remember when we were having trouble getting these off? Well, here's the reason why. See how they get wore? And then it gets locked in there, and then it makes it hard for you to pull this thing out. You know, because it's starting to wear. Everything is starting to wear. This mower is about 20 years old. So this is what happens. Yeah, this one too, it's all wore right here. So this is what happens over time. And that's all from vibration, sand, dirt. It just gets wore out and you got to replace them. So now I'm going to take this arm off and we're going to replace them bushings, and then plus that'll help me to get this belt off, because this belt, you know, is underneath this pulley and we need to replace them bushings. It's just got this clip on there with a washer, couple of washers, and then this just slides up. Now, Stens used to offer these bushings, and I had some upstairs. But now, when I went to reorder them, they're not offering them again. But there's the John Deere part number. So again, and then, you know, I charge $3 for these. But there's the Deere number. And again, you might be able to find these on Scamazon or Fleabay. And then I'll check the shaft to make sure that, yeah, this shaft is starting to get wore. This doesn't move, but I'm pretty sure that you can replace this shaft. So I'm going to put the new bushings on and see if that takes up a lot of that slack or slop that's in there. But this is how a repair can quickly escalate to being expensive if you want it done right and if you want it to work correctly. So I'll have to take this on the bench and knock them bushings out, and then we'll see. But I just got a hold of Deere, and hopefully they'll have this pulley by tomorrow. And I'm sure this pulley isn't cheap. My phone's going off. It's probably the Deere dealer. He said he'll have one tomorrow by 11. So I got to hit him back and tell him, okay, good. This pulley's kind of noisy too. So I'm not going to go through all this work and replace all these pulleys and not replace this one, because I know what's going to happen. This one's going to lock up next. All right, so I'm going to drive out these little plastic bushings, if I can. Should probably put a socket underneath it. Kind of hold it up a little bit. These things are really in there. No, that ain't helping. Put the socket under that part. There we go. Got that one out. Let me drive this other one out. That one came out easier. Here's the new ones, which just slip right in now. All right, so now I got to look up this pulley. Wonder if Stens might have this one. Yeah, that's kind of noisy. I just want to see how this is gonna. Yeah, it's still a little sloppy. Well, I may have to replace this pin too. I'll be calling them back. This thing is, everything on this deck is wore out as far as all that, except for the spindles. Those bearings are good. All right, I'm going to remove this bolt here. 15mm socket. Would help if I went backwards. I got the double pulley off. And look at this baffle. It's got a big piece of wood underneath there, and the weld had broke loose. So I'm going to have to weld that back in. So here's that pin, and it's all wore. That's why we're getting that slop. I mean, it's really not that bad. There's no way to grease it, it's just plastic. But it's also kind of seized on here, which doesn't help either. And again, a lot of this can and will affect the way the deck cuts. It's not going to cut right. All right, well, we're on hold on this until I get these new parts in. And again, this isn't going to be a cheap repair. Well, I flipped the deck over and welded in that baffle. And I added a little extra weld here, and I noticed it was cracked here too, so I welded that. And I also noticed that there was a crack starting here, so I welded that up. And we got our parts from John Deere to finish this deck so it'll work properly. And let me tell you something. Them parts weren't cheap. You know why? Because if it comes from green and yeller, it'll bankrupt the feller. And that feller being the customer. That feller. So here's that shaft that this was riding on. That was all sloppy. And as you could tell, I mean, it was pretty worn here. And it's pretty rough. So putting them new bushings in there is just gonna chew them up. So we went to Deere and got that. There's the part number. And of course, you know, you're gonna get the shaft when you buy parts from John Deere. This shaft was $61.28. And then this idler, I noticed, this is about ready to go. So we're not going to go through all this work and have this go next. And as you can see, those seals in there, they're captured. I can't pop that seal out and put some grease in there. So Stens has got this pulley, but I didn't have time to order it from Stens. So I just went ahead and got it from Deere. They had it in stock. There's the part number for that. And that pulley wasn't too bad, $22.48. And it's made in the USA. And now the double pulley. It comes loaded with the bearings and everything in it. It's even got grease on it. Now again, this is all worn here. So that belt is not going to grip. It's going to slip. And when it starts slipping, you know what that's going to do? It's going to create friction, which creates heat, which is going to wear the belt out faster. 20-some years old this pulley is, so it's time to change it. This mower got almost 1,000 hours on it. So this was $144. But it's got to be changed if we want it to work right. Otherwise, it's going to come back. And my saying is, comebacks aren't greenbacks, because now you're doing it again. You know, you can charge them for the part, but usually you can't charge them for the labor because you had it apart. Let's just do it right. And then this thing was seized on that shaft too. This is what that shaft goes through. So it was seized on there. But these plastic bushings in here are still good. See, they're good. They fit on there tight. All right, so now all I have to do is put all these parts on the deck, and then we can put the deck back on. Oh, one other thing I forgot to mention when I was doing my welding. Remember when I talked about these pins? How they were wore, had grooves wore in them? Well, I welded up them grooves instead of buying the new pins. So that'll help when you go to remove the deck. It won't get caught in those grooves. And then you're trying to fight to get them out. And we didn't show this either. He also wanted a new drive belt to drive the tractor. That was bad too. And the reason we didn't show that is because I got a video, an old video that shows you how to change this drive belt on here. So it needed a new drive belt. He wanted it. The customer came in, and that's what he wanted when he dropped it off. I want a new drive belt. I want all new belts. And that one pulley that was missing, he wanted that. See, this had a crack in it. And then again, Once I got it apart and saw all that other stuff, which was my mistake, I should have jerked my deck off first.
Oops.
And then went through, evaluated it, figured out everything, but it just took a little bit longer. All I had to do is just order more parts. But we're doing it right. We're getting it done. There's your dinner. I just want to point out a couple of things as I'm assembling this. I've already got the shaft on there and bolted down. Now if you notice, there's two little nubs on here, and those little nubs fit into these holes on this shaft here, this pivot shaft. They fit in there like that. Now I'm going to take some of our gel lube, which we sell in our online store, and I'm going to spray some inside here in that little void area between the two bushings, just to give it a little bit of lubrication. Because that shaft was froze on there. Now I'll go ahead and line up that and then put the double pulley on. And then I'll be able to put the other shaft on and put that idler on, because there's something I want to show you about that too before I install it. So here's another thing to keep in mind. If you tighten this double pulley down and it's spinning like it's hard, you have to seat the bearings a little bit. So to do that, just tap on the bolt, on the head of the bolt, and it'll start spinning freer. Because sometimes you have to seat the bearings a little bit after you install it, and then go ahead and hit it again with the impact, just to make sure it's tight. Now I got to hook up the spring, and then we're going to put the other idler on, and we're going to put this idler on, and I want to talk about what I had to do to put this on. I had to make a little bit of a modification. Now if you don't have one of these, you need to make one. I use this for hooking springs a lot of time. May have seen me use it in other videos. So it makes it a lot easier to put this, to get all this lined up when you go to put that part on there, if you remove this spring. So now I'm going to hook the spring back up. And it makes it easier if you got one of these homemade tools. This one's kind of cruel. I think crude, not cruel. It's not a cruel tool. It's a crude tool. But I just whipped it up in a hurry one day and been using it ever since. Homemade tools. Don't you love them? Make yours today. So now we're going to install this idler pulley, which is the pulley that had come off originally when the customer had brought the mower in. This is the one that failed, where the bearing was locked up. And I want to point out something about this. It uses a carriage bolt that goes in here. Now, the carriage bolt was missing when this had fallen off and failed on the customer. Now, you wouldn't think that a carriage bolt is going to be anything special, but again, we're talking about John Deere here. So when I went to install this, I went and got a new carriage bolt, but I didn't order the one from John Deere. I just went and got one out of my hardware, or if you went to the hardware store to get one. The John Deere, this square part, the John Deere one isn't this thick, isn't this long. It's only about this thick, because you got to go through this part of the deck, which is about a 1/16 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, probably 1/8 of an inch. So when I went to put the carriage bolt in and bolt all this down, it was still flopping around, because John Deere's got a special carriage bolt that goes in there. So what I did is I took a 7/16 drill bit and I drilled that so that the square part would fit into there. Are you getting what I'm saying there, grass rats? When I went to put this carriage bolt in, See how much that square part is sticking up through the deck? And had I not relieved it or countersunk that, this thing was sitting like this because it was hitting this part of the carriage bolt because it's a little bit too heavy. So now it fits over that. Then this goes on. Then you need a thick washer like this that goes under on top of that, because without it, when you put this shield on, it's going to lock against that. And it's going to lock this pulley up. We need something to go against that bearing. So that thick washer goes on there. That gives us our proper spacing. And then this other thick washer, which was one of the original ones, goes on there next. And now I'm going to put a locking nut on there. They didn't have a locking nut, John Deere. And then we'll tighten that down. But if you notice, there's a little bit of adjustment on here. So you could add a little bit more tension or less tension by moving that. But we're going to put it back in its original spot, which it had been in for the last 20 years, which is about right there, all the way forward. But there is room for a little bit of adjustment. So now we need to tighten that down. All right, so we got that idler installed, or I wanted to mention this too, or you could just use a regular 5/16 bolt. You don't have to use a carriage bolt. That's up to you. The only reason they use that carriage bolt is so, you know, it captures the bolt so you don't have to reach your arm up under there with another wrench to hold it. But you could use a standard bolt on there. You don't have to use that John Deere bolt if you don't want to go in there and recess all that. All right, so now next, I need to change out this pulley, which is just simply unbolting that. Again, it's got a thick, listen to that thing now. Let me get the OEM pulley, which I left over here, still in the bag. And if you notice, this thing also has a notch that it fits into. And another carriage bolt. See? Look at this one. See how shallow that is? The square part of the carriage bolt. So John Deere's even making special hardware. They want to have everything special. So you have to get it from them. And you know what? It's just a piece of hardware. So this little bushing here, I've got to knock that out. But yeah, this thing is bad. Look at it. Now that I've got it off of there, it is really rough. This thing was going to fail next. So you can find a socket. Find a socket that fits in there. Might be able to just tap it out. There it is. There's your dinner. Because it's really supposed to just slip in there. We'll put this back on. And there's our dinner. Now I just got to route the belt. We go back to our diagram, which I drew on there. I don't know if I mentioned earlier in the video, but I'm using Sten's belt. So I'm going to go over that again, because it's been a couple of days since we jumped back on here. So this was the belt for the drive, which makes the tractor move. They have a replacement belt. It might be cheaper than the one from Deere. And there's the part number, and there's the John Deere part number. Make sure that number matches the one for your tractor. This is the one for the deck that ties all the blades together. They would call this the secondary belt. And again, make sure these all are the right part numbers for yours. And then this would be the primary belt, if you're looking to save some money. It's that primary belt. Now, the reason it's got these notches in there, in case you're wondering, why does it got those notches in there, Taryl? Why do the other belts like this and that one's got the notches in there? Well, the idea behind that is air is supposed to pass through there while it's spinning real fast, and it's supposed to keep the belt cooler. It's supposed to keep the heat down, because now you got air passing through it. They're like fins, these little cogs, just like on an air-cooled engine. That's why you got fins to dissipate the heat. Well, this is for air to pass through there to keep the belt cool. That's the idea behind it. Just like these teeth. That's what these are, teeth on there. They're like these teeth. This is what makes me cool. So let's put our belt on according to my diagram. So we're coming off of here. And then we want to go around this. That's why I left the clips off, because we need to raise that up a little bit to get underneath it. And then it goes over here like this. And then it wraps around. And it goes like that. Oh, Taryl, look at, there's so much slop in there. You got the wrong size belt. No, hold on. We got to put the tension on it. That's what this spring is for. And that goes there, and the other end hooks around there. Now this spring, you don't need that tool that I have, or maybe you do. Yeah, look at it. See how tight it is now? Before I was able to remove this by hand. Oh boy, we got a lot of tension. So see what a difference that makes? And see how the belt isn't riding so deep in the groove? Again, that makes a difference. You may have a mower and you may be going through belts. Why do I keep going through belts all the time, Taryl? It may be your pulleys. Your pulleys the grooves are too deep. The belts are heating up. Because of all that friction, because they're slipping. That doesn't look right, Taryl. It's rubbing over there. You know why it's rubbing over there? Because we don't have the primary belt on yet. As soon as we put the primary belt on, it's going to put tension on this. And see, it's going to pull it away. And then it'll clear. It'll clear that. But see, now we got lots of tension. I got to remember to put these on now. To put these two washers on. And put that clip on there. Now when I slide the mower deck back under the mower, hook it all up, put that primary belt on there, and then we'll latch this in place. And that primary belt is going to put tension on this. It's going to pull it forward. This arm is going to slide on here. And that'll clear then. That'll clear that area there. Trust me. I thought I'd point this out to you too before I went and slid the deck underneath there. You could see where this idler pulley had been rubbing on the deck because of the shaft and them bushings being wore out. And another thing you can notice, how much wear on that belt there was. through those wore out pulleys. Because look at the position of this idler now. It's way over here where it was, you know, when it came in, this pulley was back here. A good inch or so. But you can see that groove that idler pulley was starting to wear into the deck. So I just thought I'd point that out before I slid this under there. Okay, I got the deck all in position and locked in. I got the new primary belt on there, and as you can see, it's clearing that now. So now we'll fire it up, fire it up, fire it up, and we'll kick the blades on and hear how it sounds. One thing I like about these John Deeres, a lot of them, real smooth blade engagement. You hear how smooth that thing kicked in? I like how smooth that kicks in. You know, on some of these mowers, some of these cheaper, junkier mowers that got them electric clutches, sometimes when you kick that clutch in, it just like powers in to the point sometimes where it kills the motor. And then you got to wait till the engine really gets warmed up, you know, before it stops killing it, especially with those crappy crawler engines on there. But one thing I like about these Deeres, boy, nice and smooth engagement when you kick that blades in. That's sweet. So this thing is all done, ready to go for hopefully another 20 plus years. Well, there you have it. I hope this helps you and explains a lot of deck issues maybe that you're having that you didn't realize you're having, all because of the pulleys. Could just be the pulleys are old and they're wore out and the belt is slipping or it's not grabbing. All because of those grooves, you know, the V in the pulley getting wore down. That means a lot. Maybe you're going through belts. So if you like this video, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe to this YouTube channel, watch other stuff. We got all kinds of stuff. We also have a skits channel if you want to just, you know, if you're a person that likes to laugh, go check out the skits channel. We got all kinds of stuff there. Follow me with your John Deere's, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Check out our web store. We got all kinds of stuff there, like these gently used work shirts. These are actual work shirts. They're gently used, so they're a lot cheaper than the new ones. And you get your patches with it. Grass Rat's Garage. Check them out. These are nice shirts. Got all kinds of stuff. You can get this hat. You can get all kinds of stuff. Spark plug necklace, gel lube, other things we use in it. Check it out. There's got to be something there for you. And as always, there's your dinner. Woo! It was an expensive repair, but it's worth it. You know why? Because this is a high-end John Deere, and it's worth it. This is a good one. This ain't no box store John Deere. This is a good one. And it's worth putting the money into it. And there's your dinner.